Chapter 10, Lesson 3, Essential Question. How can you compare and convert customary units of weight? Remember, customary units is the system that we use in the United States. For today's lesson, you're going to need to know that 1 pound, which is abbreviated LB, is the same as 16 ounces. And an easy way to remember that is that LB kind of looks similar to 16. So 1 pound equals 16 ounces, which is also abbreviated OZ. And then 1 ton, which is abbreviated a capital T, is the same as 2,000 pounds, or LB. Before we read Unlock the Problem, I want to remind you when converting different measurements, if you start with a smaller unit, going to a larger unit, you multiply. When you start with a larger unit, going to a smaller unit, you divide. Okay, so with that in mind, let's do Unlock the Problem. Hector's school is having a model rocket competition. To qualify, each rocket must weigh 4 pounds or less. Hector's unpainted rocket weighs 62 ounces. What is the weight of the most paint he can use for his model rocket to qualify for entry? Squiggle underline what you're being asked to find. Circle the important information in math terms and numbers, and then do a straight underline for clue words that would help you with your operation. Alright, so I squiggle underlined what is the weight of the most paint he can use for his model rocket to qualify for entry. I circled 4 pounds because that's the weight it has to be, or less, and then 62 ounces because that's how much his rocket weighs. The words that I underlined were pounds and ounces, so that we knew we were working with two different weight units. And then I did or less, and then we're wanting to say, with the word most, we need to know exactly what this 62 ounces needs to be 4 pounds. So that's a lot of work. We'll get through it, okay? What weight does Hector need to convert? So that's right here. Well, we need to have them both in the same unit. So we have 62 ounces here. We are going to convert our 4 pounds, the 4LB, we're going to convert that to ounces. And then after we convert that weight, what do we need to do? Well, or less, okay? What's the next operation? The next operation that we're going to do is we are going to be doing some subtracting. So, got to clue this up in our mind. 1 pound equals how many ounces? Well, LB looks like 16, so it's 16 ounces. And we have our equation, the model, and the recording. So we are converting 4 pounds to ounces. So here's 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds. And we know that each of these is 16. So if you added all those up, or you multiplied 16 times 4, you would get 64 ounces. Okay, so now we're going to record what we just talked about in this model. We started with 4 pounds, remember our 4 rectangles, so there's our 4. We're moving from a larger unit to a smaller unit because pounds are a larger unit than ounces, and so we are going to multiply. And how many ounces are in 1 pound? There are 16. 4 times 16 equals 64 ounces. Okay, so that's as much ounces as the rockets can weigh. So now we need to actually answer how much paint can he use. Alright, so now we need to subtract the rocket's weight, which his rocket weighs 62 ounces right now. At the most it can weigh is 64 ounces. And so how many ounces of paint can he use? 64 minus 62 equals 2. And then, so the weight of the paint can be at most 2 ounces for Hector's model rocket to qualify for entry. If we look at our math talk real quick, how did we choose which operation to use? Changing from pounds to ounces? Well, remember, when you go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, you always multiply. Example. The rocket boosters for a U.S. space shuttle weigh 1,292,000 pounds each when the shuttle is launched. How many tons does each rocket booster weigh? Squiggle underline what you are being asked to find. Circle the important math numbers and straight underline clue words to help you know what operation you are going to use or what steps will be involved. Alright, I squiggle underlined the question, how many tons does each rocket booster weigh? I circled the important number of 1,292,000, and then I straight underlined the clue words of pounds and tons to know that we're working with two different weight units, and then the word each. Alright, so when we're converting pounds to tons, we need to decide what operation to use. So since pounds are smaller than tons, I need to blank the number of pounds by something. So we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. How do we do that? Well, I know that when I start with a larger and go smaller, I multiply. So now I'm doing the opposite. So this time we need to divide our number of pounds by what? How many pounds are in 1 ton? Well, right here you can look. It's 2,000 pounds. So we are going to be dividing the number of pounds by 2,000 pounds. The next step is we're going to break 2,000 into two factors that are easy to divide by mentally. If you wanted to, you could set it up right here and divide the whole thing out by 2,000. But you know what? It's really simple to break this down into thousands. So that's what we're going to do, because 1,000 times 2 makes 2,000. So when the last step is to actually divide the 1,292,000 by the first factor, which is 1,000. Okay, so we're just going to divide it by 1,000. Now the reason why we do this is because we're dividing by a power of 10. So how many zeros are there in our 1,000? 1, 2, 3. That means that I'm going to be moving my decimal, which would be right here at the end. I'm going to be moving my decimal left 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So that's getting rid of those 3 zeros. So now I'm at 1,292. And I did that in my head without having to do the long division onto the side. So now we need to divide the 1,292. We need to divide that by 2, because that's the second factor right here. So divide that by 2. If you want to, you could set it up over here and divide it by 2. 2 goes into 12, 6. 12. There's 4. 8. You end up with 12. That's 6. So your final answer is 646. So how much does each rocket booster weigh? It actually weighs 646 tons. Now again, you could have just set it your long division and had your 3 zeros here and had divided out by 2,000, and you still would have ended up with 646. Alright, so now let's move down to your share and show at the bottom of the page. You have 4 different problems to work on. And remember, when you move from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you multiply. And when you move from a larger unit to a smaller unit, you divide. I would also like you to try and answer this Math Talk question because you're going to have some comparing problems on your homework. To use the picture to complete each equation. So this picture, this is 1 pound, and each little square equals an ounce. So 1 pound equals how many ounces? It equals 16. 3 pounds equals how many ounces? So you would multiply 3 times 16, and you would get 48. 5 pounds equals how many ounces? 5 times 16 equals 80. Moving over here, 2 pounds. Oh, I I went up and down instead of right and left. So 2 pounds is how many ounces? 32. 16 times 2. And then 4 pounds, 4 times 16 is 64. So now we're going to convert, for number 2, we're going to convert 15 pounds to how many ounces? So we have our 15 that we're starting with. We're moving to a smaller unit, and we're going to multiply it by how many ounces? Well, there's 16 ounces in a pound, so 15 times 16 equals 240 ounces. Number 3. This is 3 tons equaling how many pounds? So we're starting with a larger amount, so we have 3 tons, and larger amount to smaller amount means we multiply. How many pounds are in 1 ton? 2,000. So we multiply that using my powers of 10 strategy. 3 times 2 equals 6. And then how many zeros do I need to add? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So 3 tons equals 6,000 pounds. Okay, and number 4, 320 ounces equals how many pounds? So now we're going from a smaller unit. So we're going from 320 ounces to pounds. Smaller to larger means that we're going to be dividing. How many ounces are in a pound? There are 16. 320 divided by 16. You can do all of your long division, and your answer should be 20 pounds. For the Math Talk section, we're comparing 11 pounds to 175 ounces, and we're going to do it mentally. So I would know that 11 pounds is close to 10 pounds, and there's 16 ounces in a pound. So 16 times 10 is going to be 160, plus another 16 to make it 11 is 176. So that shows me that I could mentally do this quickly, and that 11 pounds is greater than 175.